Hi, happy morning. Yeah, it's happy because this is the day that the Lord has made, and we shall be glad and rejoice in it. So it's not so much. It's not so much how we feel or what we think we have to face today, but it is the Lord, and letting the Lord has control over everything. So as long as the Lord is in the picture, as we invite Him, God is a gentleman. Uh, he is a person, and He will not be your Lord if you do not want Him to be your Lord. And He knows that because He is not a God is not a cheapo, uh, low kind of low taste, or I do not know the right word to express it, but he's not so. In Malay it's called hadap, that means he's so pathetic. He wants to be your Lord. He wants you to worship him. He cannot leave. You cannot, if you don't make him your Lord. You cannot, if you don't worship him. He's addicted to you. God, we have made God to be. We have superimposed the our picture of pathetic, and many of these our human view of God, and He is not. He is great. He is wonderful. He is majestic. He is God of love, but He has not. He never ever lose His sovereignty, and His power and His glory and His awesomeness. But yet He chose to be good to us. He chose to love us even before the creation of the world. He has chosen to love us, and love is not our idea; it's His idea. So I just want to read today, 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 1 to 5. Dare any of you, having a matter against another, go to law before the unrighteous and not before the saints? Do you not know that the saints will judge the world? And if the world will be judged by you, are you unworthy to judge the smallest matters? One day you are going to judge the world. In the new millennium, you are going to rule and reign with Him. And so today we are nobody. Christians, real Christians, not the uh, Christians countries with political power and all the. I'm talking about real Christians who are nobody. Like Paul said, we are the scum of the earth. We are nobody. Uh, we are, and in our nation, our voice is very small. You know, but you know, one day, in the new millennium, okay, we are going to judge the world. Okay, the world will be judged by you. Verse 3. Do you not know that we shall judge angels? Wow. So I really, reading this, the Lord is really adding value to you. You may be nobody in this world. You may be insignificant in this world, according to the measure and standards and the values of this world. But the word says the truth is you are somebody. It's just that not the time yet. There'll come a time you will rule and reign with Christ, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. And you will even judge angels. Do you not know that we shall judge angels? How much more things that pertain to this life? Verse 4. If then you have judgments concerning things pertaining to this life, do you appoint those who are least esteemed by the judge to judge? You know, our value system is really has to be reorientated, readjust, realigned because we tend to think very secular. We tend to think like the world. Okay, we tend to think that we tend to measure things. We tend to ascertain, value things like the world. The world look at so the you know so here Paul said, verse 4, if then you have judgments concerning things pertaining to this life, do you appoint those who are least esteemed by the church to judge? That means they have no spiritual discernment, they have no godly value, they have no divine perspective. So, so for those who advocate that you shouldn't separate the secular from the spiritual, you know, then we have to bring in the value, the kingdom values, divine perspective, spiritual discernment into the secular, and not the other way around. Okay. Verse 5, I say this to your shame. Is it so that there is not a wise man among you, not even one, who will be able to judge between his brethren? A wise man. And we read earlier in First Corinthians, earlier chapters, Paul talked about wisdom not of this age, the wisdom that is of God. And you know, there is a wisdom in First Corinthians 2. Remember First Corinthians 2. Paul talked about wisdom. I'm going back now. And Paul talked about, First Corinthians 2 verse 6. However, we speak wisdom among those who are mature, yet not the wisdom of this age, nor of the rulers of this age who are coming to nothing. But we speak the wisdom of God, right? So the wisdom of God. And Matthew 10, Jesus taught us to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. So, the wisdom of God, the wisdom of the world is like this. You exploit, you take advantage, you manipulate. But the wisdom of God is love. Love, we love. And Exodus chapter 7, verse 12. Let me read. For every man threw down his rod, and they became serpents. It means these sorcerers of the Pharaoh. But Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods. So the wisdom of God overcome the wisdom of the world. If you think that the people of this world is wise, of course there are many wise people that is not of God in this world. They are smart, they're intelligent, they are very good leaders, they are very good influencers, and they are very good in maneuvering and but I want to challenge us, not just you, us, me as well, that we can have the wisdom of God that is superior, right? And Jesus said, be wise as serpents. And this the rod of that there is Aaron was holding, and Aaron threw down his rod, and Aaron's rod became a serpent that ate up, okay, all the other serpents. So of the sorcerers. So the wisdom, all right, there is no neutrality, There's no neutrality actually. Money also no neutrality actually. Money by itself is neutral, but money always belongs to someone, always under control of someone. So there's no neutrality in that. So wisdom also no neutrality, because if it's of the world, if it's of the unbelievers, without the Spirit of Christ, without the mind of Christ, it is always be subjected to the influence of the evil one, and it will go evil and sideways. Therefore, we cannot find real justice, real righteousness until and unless and when Jesus rule and reign in a new millennium. Then you see the real justice, you see the real righteousness, and then it becomes secular, right? The spiritual becomes secular, not now, in the new millennium, when we will rule and reign with Christ on earth in the new millennium. Then you can really see, okay, the government upon his shoulders. So when we look at Old Testament prophecies, we need to really understand the timeline. If God's plan and it's not just this age, right, then we cannot apply in this age. Okay, if it's for the age to come, right? So the gospel is not just gospel of this age, okay? Who is, who was, and who is to come, Christ. And it is not just this age. That's why the book of Revelation, God gave it to us to see the full spectrum, okay? Full spectrum of what's going to happen, not just in this age, but in the age to come. And let's believe God for wisdom. Let's believe God for wisdom. This is what I really want to share in this clip. Believe God for wisdom. Don't look up so much the wisdom of this world. Don't feel inferior. The wisdom of God is in the church. God's wisdom. How can it be that the wisdom of the world is greater than the wisdom of God? And the wisdom of God, God has given the church the ability to draw his wisdom. And it's not just wisdom in pertinence to the spiritual ministry, but in the secular matters. In the secular matters, right? So that's what Paul was really trying to wake them up. Wake them up. Hey, you don't have any wise person according to divine wisdom in your midst, that you have to go out to the world. And not only they went out to the world to ascertain matters, to make judgment among them, but they actually brought the wisdom of the world into the church. So let's have the wisdom of God. And book of James tells us to ask the wisdom of God, but not wavering. Not wavering. We waver, we ask God's wisdom and suddenly it doesn't work, then we get panic and we fall back to the wisdom of the world. So let's believe God today. If there is anything I want to suggest and propose to you today, is today we believe God for his wisdom. That is superior than the wisdom of the world. That is greater than the wisdom of the world. Not just in spiritual matters, but in our business, in our administration, in the secular, in whatever in pertinence to our life, private life, family, and everything in existence, we can have the wisdom of God. God bless you. Have a great day. Amen.